Welcome to another episode of The Laws That Matter. I'm Carissa Kranz, and today we have for you Gabriel Cousens. He's a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, a family therapist, a licensed homeopathic physician, Ayurvedic practitioner, Chinese herbalist, founder of Tree of Life Center. He's the author of several best-selling books, among many other things. Talk about a man of many trades, embodying the laws that matter. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Chris, I'm happy to be on your show, and I've been a vegan since 1973.
I didn't even introduce you as a vegan because that to me, that's like, oh, and he's a vegan. That's an afterthought. There's so many things. It's almost like you're a spiritual guru, you're a nutrition expert. New York Times named you and dubbed you, what was it?
The detox expert.
The fasting guru and detoxification expert. I mean, you have many names, and I totally missed the vegan one.
And live food really since 1983. So.
Wow. So how did your journey begin?
With the quest of understanding what death was about. I had TB when I was 1 year old. 1943, they didn't have a cure for TB. It was almost for sure death, particularly with little kids. And I'm one. And I was sick for a year and I healed with a lot of mother's love and father's love.
So what was your eye-opening experience that really led you on this path of, holistic, homeopathic, Ayurvedic, Chinese therapy, veganism, spirituality, becoming a rabbi? You've certainly collected a lot of.
So at the age of 4, nobody in my family had ever done anything medical. I knew I wanted to be a doctor. At age of 8, I began having certain, let's say, visitations by different kind of beings of light. And then I got more progressively into being a doctor and focused on that. And at Columbia Medical School, I realized they have no understanding. That was the breakthrough. I was a third-year medical student, specifically where the breakthrough was. Nobody could figure out, this lady had been in 5 different major hospitals in New York. Supposedly medicine's very good there. And I'm this third-year medical student, and I make the diagnosis, which is depression. She didn't have a tumor, she didn't have this. 5 different hospitals. And the lowly third-year medical student actually talks to the client and makes the diagnosis of depression. And from that point, I got, okay, they're not getting it, and I need to wake up. And that's kind of the turning point. And from there, I began to move into holistic health in a variety of ways. And I realized that part of it was majorly missing is people live in family systems, individually, but family systems and couple systems. And so I also trained as a psychiatrist and a family therapist. And then it all came together in the early 70s, where I said, okay, there's herbs and there's vitamins and minerals and there's diet, and it all fits together. Now, one of the turning points is I was working a lot with hypoglycemia. And in that process, I began to get, I worked with Pavel Arola, or you may have heard of him a long time ago, Hypoglycemia, Better Approach. He had many of my case studies in this book. And from there, I moved into a total holistic approach and lifestyle. See, you can't separate it. To me, you have to be what you're doing. Okay? So in 1973, when my wife was pregnant with our second child, we both had this nightmare dream that the child was a fetus. The child was a chicken. Okay? And we woke up and said, oh my God. And we became instant vegans.
Wow. Back in the 70s?
73, yeah.
Wow. Vegans, not vegetarians, vegans.
No, vegan.
Wow.
So, there's a transition into veganism, but it was really vegan, not vegetarian, if you get what I'm saying. We just didn't know much about it. Okay, so that was a major turning point. And then in 1975, I lived and meditated in India for 7 years. Okay, meditating about 6 hours a day. And that's where kind of the liberation breakthrough happened. But that's where I got a message in 1975 when I received the awakening of the spiritual energy called Shaktipat or Haniha, different terms, different traditions. And when I came down, a little voice rang out and said, you should learn to eat in a way that supports the spiritual energy. Then I began exploring, well, what's the optimum diet, which is a total vegan, at least 80% live food diet. So that's kind of the turning points. And so in 1986, I wrote my first book, Spiritual Nutrition and the Rainbow Diet. So that's how it kind of evolved, that these kind of inputs came to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And then as those inputs came, I obviously became more involved. And in the early 80s, not that many people really understood about holistic health. Really, in the early 70s, not that many people. Actually, in the early 70s, they didn't have the name holistic health. It wasn't even a term. I didn't know. Honestly, I never called it holistic health. It wasn't a term. It was just like integrated approach, seeing the whole person, seeing individually, seeing their diet, working with a couple relationship, with the family relationship, a total approach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I evolved to that.
Mm.
Kind of one step at a time. There weren't, in other words, there wasn't a concept. I kind of evolved into a concept, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense to me. We all evolve. We're all in our own journey of evolution on this. So long as we're human, there's always room to grow and expand our consciousness.
Right.
So did you raise your kids vegan?
Somewhat. That's all I can say. What I say, somewhat, it's they were vegan for long periods of time. I can't say, well, they're in their early 50s and late 40s, and I can't say they're a vegan at this point. They have a tendency towards that, but they aren't.
Mm-hmm. But
not that they weren't raised that way, but life is what it is.
Yeah, but you raised them vegan in a time when it wasn't so common.
That's it, and that made them outsiders. So it's a little bit of a problem.
I don't know.
Not in India. For 7 years, they were vegan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was born and raised vegan. I don't know if you know that about me,
but very good. Yeah.
I was a vegan from birth. My mom had a vegan pregnancy. She was raised vegetarian. It started with my great-grandfather, who, on my mom's side, he had a health issue, and so he decided to cut out the meat and dairy, and he resolved his issue. And my mom's side of the family, they're all vegetarian, but she's the one that took it to the next level of vegan. And so I know what it's like to grow up in a time where it's taboo to be vegan and an outsider. Right now, veganism is becoming mainstream, and the movement is very popular. I don't know. Yeah, I'm the founder of BeVeg, the global vegan certification firm that does. We're the only ISO accredited vegan standard in the world. So that makes us the most legitimate vegan claim on the market for the consumer. And it's really wonderful for me to finally be in a business where I can own my truth and feel like I'm living out who I really am. Whereas as a child, it was something that I hid because I didn't want to be made fun of, or I just wanted to fit in, and I didn't want to even let people know I was vegan because I just wanted to be left alone to eat the way I wanted to eat because I was a vegan because I love the animals. And even though my mom raised me vegan for health, I was given many opportunities to eat meat in my life, and I never took anyone up on it because I understood it was an animal and I loved animals. So for me, I understood the connection very young, which I feel very grateful for. because most people never even given
Right.
the chance to connect, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
So that's good.
Yeah.
It's cool that that's a very special upbringing.
Hmm.
Very special.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it seems like you've had quite the journey yourself, India, and now you're in Israel. I don't know if I said that at the beginning of the show, but we're live from Israel right now.
And Tel Aviv may be the vegan center of the world. That's what people feel. There's 8.6% of the population is vegan here, which is pretty high percentage. And I think it's probably higher at this point. But the health department has 8.6%, like a few years ago.
Wow.
But there's vegan restaurants, particularly a lot in Tel Aviv. We like making our own food, but that's But the point is, it's very growing. It's very much part, really, honestly, of a biblical understanding that what was in the Garden of Eden, right? Live food, vegan. Yeah. Well, that's not an accident. So it's easy as a lifestyle here.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. So you've done a lot. You've written a lot of books. You've accomplished a lot. What are you working on now?
Well, I just finished a book, Into the Nothing, which is a spiritual autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about my journey into veganism, into spirituality, and really going beyond the mind, which is a kind of a deeper level of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so it also talks about developing what I call a holistic liberation way, a way of life that can lead you to liberation. Not a specific practice, but a general way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the pillars of that is a total plant-based diet and at least 80% live food, fasting. Actually, we have a fasting workshop. We do it twice a year, but we have one coming up over the internet in a week, in 2 weeks, on the 26th. And then doing the yoga. So I do yoga, try yoga. That's what my wife teaches, 6 times a week. So that keeps you got to have that flexibility and expansion, and breathing, what we call pranayama, sacred dance. I love the dance. It's really, really good. And then service and charity. So we have programs. We are spreading vegan nutrition all over the world. I have the diabetes prevention centers in many, many countries around the world, 34 different countries. Mm-hmm. And in Africa, we have organic vegan farming, which we've been sponsoring. So bringing the idea of veganism to around the world. So in Cameroon, there's about 25 different organic vegan farms that we sponsored. And could people get into it? It's pretty easy. It's not not that hard in Africa. There isn't that much animal eating like people think, because that's for the upper class, so to speak. And so vegan is catching on in the different countries. So that's one piece. And then the fourth is meditate. Meditate a few hours a day. That's just what I do as part of my life. And then I share that spiritual energy, spiritual teaching, having spent many years with spiritual teachers, Swami Muktananda, Swami Prakashananda. Now that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps going down the line. So all that's there. And I do work as a holistic physician in that bigger piece. Mm-hmm. Holistic, really emphasizing the spiritual. Because if you don't get the spiritual, you don't really get it. For me, for example, part of being plant-based diet is understanding that the animals have a soul. Okay.
That makes it vegan, not plant-based. Because vegan means you understand the compassion side, and plant-based is a
more
diet.
technical. It's more material. It's
It's
more
a diet,
material.
and plant-based means based mostly in plants. It doesn't mean free from animal material, like vegan.
Okay, good. Very good. You just taught me something. Thanks.
Well,
I
it's
didn't think
important
about it
because
that
so
way.
many vegans are starting to say plant-based, 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 and it tarnishes the word vegan, which deserves legal protection under the law.
I like it. Very good thinking. Very, very helpful. So when people eat meat, they're taking on the soul of the animal.
Mm-hmm.
Really a bigger issue.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't understand that.
No.
So you're lowering your energetic consciousness because not that animals are nice, but it's a different frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So eating animal will lower your frequency.
Yeah.
And even though Bill Gates would like people to eat insects, the Torah teaches that's an abomination. It totally disrupts your frequency.
Really? I didn't know that the Torah said that.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Now, in fact, this last teaching, it just said it. Don't eat insects.
Wow.
It lowers, they don't say lower your frequency. They say a few other things. What's the point? People worry about, can we feed everybody? Well, the truth is, if the whole world were vegan, we could feed the world 7 times over. It's a non-problem. It's a non-issue. You don't have to kill off all the people on the planet like they're trying to do. There's enough food for everyone.
Right.
So that's why we promote vegan farming very, very heavily. Where I live here in Israel, there's 2 wonderful vegan farms. So we get all our food organic and fresh, pick that day. So it's really nice, but it's a consciousness of understanding the vegan world. So we don't wear leather or anything like that. And I haven't worn leather for 50 years, So it's like it's a whole way. My wife is the same way. Actually, she's a very strong vegan in her feeling. So nothing leather, nothing that has anything to do that has violated the life of an animal.
Yeah, exploitation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cruelty.
Well, it's a violation too. You kill somebody, it's a violation. It's an exploitation for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we see it a little bit more like it's a spiritual violation.
It is a spiritual violation. Yeah.
That's how we see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we live that way. And we lived that way for, a long time.
Yeah. A lot of people don't necessarily realize the spiritual connection with the eating of meat and animals to how it could affect them, like you're talking about. They don't necessarily think about, like the poor animal suffered and lived a horrific life in factory farms. Maybe I'm ingesting that fear and suffering, and maybe my vibration's lowering because I'm partaking, even if it's an indirect way, in this animal holocaust. Really is what it is. But a lot of people are focused on the health aspects and the environmental aspects and the sustainability aspects. And I think that the spiritual aspect is just as important and could speak to a lot of people who don't make the connection. Like there's so many people out there who are good people, into yoga, into meditation, into wanting to live a more enlightened life of well-being and feeling good. And they haven't quite connected the dots.
Yeah, I absolutely. From a yogic point of view, the basic yogic teaching is you don't eat animals, period. Okay? Because you're taking on the animal ego, you're taking on a lower consciousness. I'll take it a step further. You're violating the animal soul. You're taking the soul on, not just the animal ego. You're also taking on pain, misery, and fear into your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to create a quiet mind with spiritual, you're meditating, you're taking the pain, fear, and misery, which is agitating to the mind.
Mm-hmm. Creates aggression.
Yeah, and you're taking it in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a quiet mind, in yoga we say yoga triti virti nirodha. Okay, yoga is quieting the mind. If you're eating animals, you're activating the mind.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pieces that are important to me, though. That the part that doesn't get talked about much is you're actually taking the animal's consciousness, soul, and so you're lowering your awareness. It does affect, you do get more gross. Now I can get a little bit more detail. When 1976, I began working with a lot of people who had trouble with Kundalini, which is the spiritual energy that gets awakened when we call it the Ruach Kadesh in the West. Okay, so this energy is for your spiritual evolution. Okay, what I observed is when people had it going out of control, they would eat meat as a medication. And I realized that meat, fish, chicken, and dairy blocks the spiritual flow of the spiritual energy. And in yoga, it's called nadis. There's 72,000 nadis, 3 main ones, but Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Well, the point I'm making here is meat, fish, chicken, and dairy, and have to include it, acts as a sludge to the Kundalini or the spiritual energy, literally blocking it energetically. And I think that, and the other thing is you're taking the energy of death, which is a little, you're taking the soul, which is lowering, but the energy of death. And it's not just in the physical body, it's in the deeper nervous system, and ultimately what we call the 5 layers of the mind, what we call the koshas. It actually dulls the layers of the mind. So it's actually a big deal. And that's why you find most serious yogis who yoga not as a physical exercise, but as a way of life, as a spiritual way of living. It's definitely is no animals involved. Now, some yogis are eating, drinking milk, but that was a time ago. Now, drinking milk is part of the whole cruelty issue.
So, as Paige is asking here, do you see the yoga community making the connection to dairy too?
Slowly. Some are getting it, some don't. Because people say, well, 2,000 years ago they had dairy. That's right, but what dairy then, dairy now, they're not the same thing. It's a toxin now, and it's pain and misery from the cow experiences. Very different.
Yeah, which is what Tina says. You're eating what they had went through before they were murdered because they were abused before that. Go vegan. Thanks, Tina. Yeah, so tell us about the detox that you promote, and how'd you get the title Detox Guru? What does that mean? And how long are you supposed to fast? And what will that accomplish? Tell us about that.
Okay, so detox, the way I talk about it, is multidimensional: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So there are 4 levels. I do a lot of work with fasting. I supervise individual fasts, but we also do group fasts. And what's the purpose? Well, I call them spiritual fasts. So we are doing meditating twice a day because you want to detox on that level. We have some emotional work that people do because it's time. That's part of it. But what sets it off is the physical detox. We use, I dilute green juices in half. That's what people drink. Okay. That's the primary. And the point is that it flushes the toxins out of particularly bowel toxins. I found that a 7-day fast is probably the easiest and most efficient. I've done the 40-day fast. I've done 21-day water fast. I've tried different things. That's part of the role of being a teacher. You got to try it. You have to be the one to go through it. So each has its advantages. But what I saw, practically speaking, most people have time to do a 7-day diluted juice fast. And it gives the best, I'm going to say, bowel toxicity. It takes about 3 to 5 days to have the bowel detox. And the bowel is putting toxins into the brain. So day 5, 4, and 5, you're also detoxing the brain. First, the bowel is being cleared. I mean, we're doing enemas during the fast and doing things. So you're getting a bowel detox and a general detox What I've observed when we do this twice a year, is that is sufficient to give a real rejuvenation energy, because people their minds start to get clear, and they start to meditate. They start to feel the really joy of the divine in their life, because it's not being blocked with all the junk that's there. So we emphasize all 4 levels of detox, not just a physical detox. That's pretty simple. You don't have to do much to do that. I mean, but a 7-day fast gives you a complete round of detox. I found when people go longer, like more than 14 days, they don't get that much advantage unless we're trying to heal diabetes or, as a medical thing. But and I do supervise people with their type 2 diabetes during the fast, but that's not why we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's a much bigger picture. So I don't like the people to really go more than 7 to 10 days and get the basic detox, and it doesn't knock them out of their rhythm. In fact, more important, it helps you get back into your holy rhythm. It helps you get back in touch with what the world is about. It helps you begin to touch into the sacredness of life and to your own soul. In our world today, a lot of people have lost that connection with their soul. That's why that doesn't mean anything to be vegan, because you've lost your connection with your soul. So how you can relate to the soul of an animal, when you start to connect to your own soul, it gets a lot easier to relate to the soul of the animal.
Yeah.
Because you can see it now, okay? And for the souls of other people. So when you know yourself and you see the divine spark within you, you're able to see the divine spark in other people. And guess what? You can see it in the animals too then.
It's namaste. The divine in me honors the divine in you.
That's right. That's right. So it's just a beautiful cycle. And the 7-day spiritual fast takes you through the whole cycle of detox on all those levels. Now, people do a 2-day cleansing, 3-day cleansing, and you get some cleansing for sure. But it really is a minimum of a 7-day cycle that really gives this multi-level detox.
So this fast that you have coming up on the internet, it's a 7-day one, this group fast?
Yes.
And what's the point of doing it as a group? Is it like moral support to get through it? I assume there's probably different emotions you feel on day 1 and day 2 and day 3. Is that
Exactly. Well, the group support has a bunch of pieces, because we're doing group meditation over the internet. So there's a lot of interaction. So people begin to support each other, begin to get a sense of community, and you meditate together, you share your stuff together, and there's something very powerful about the human connection. When everybody's all separated out, like they try to do with this, you lose that sense of human connection. So this is really what we're talking about. It's part of remembering your humanity, remembering you have a soul, connecting with the souls of other people, and it's support, and it's sharing, and that kind of thing. Multiple levels.
So if someone were to sign up, what would they expect to experience for the week?
A lot of fun. A lot of people love it, okay?
But is it
a lot easier?
Do you log in every morning at a certain time?
No, I don't understand, but I wanted to give the overview. So we actually have a pretty tight schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have a sharing in the morning. I have teaching. We have 2 meditations during the day, another kind of sharing, group check-ins. And so they're getting pretty closely followed. That's the way I like to do it. In fact, I'm probably one of the few, if only, MD-led fasts. So there's a certain, if they want, a certain amount of medical input to it as well, if you get what I'm saying. So they're getting all those things, and they're getting the spiritual part. And that's what makes our fast really different. The emotional and mental and spiritual detox is a significant part of the fast. We're not just going to be physical here. We're going way beyond that. So it's a tight schedule, goes throughout the day. Since it's international, it has me staying up fairly late for because people are in different time zones around the world. So I kind of match and kind of overlap, have check-ins at different times for people in different worlds.
Well, even right now, we have people checking in from India, the UK, California,
Right.
Florida. You're in Israel. We're already global here.
Right. You got it. So that's the point. That's the point what I'm making. And so the fast has a pretty, I feel people do better when there's a tight schedule and there's check-in and, back up, because we have people they can call if they get in trouble, or they get worried or whatever. And so we're really monitoring people 24 hours a day, without invading their lives, without being invasive.
Mm-hmm. And how are you able to monitor people who might have diabetes, like you said, who want to try the fast? How can that be monitored?
Well, first of all, I don't really do it unless it's just type 2, not really on insulin. Now, when we have the fast in person, it's real easy. We're checking on them 4 times a day. I meet with them 4 times a day. The fast, as we're doing over the internet, I don't really encourage it. But if people really aren't on insulin, there's really no danger. You're only going to get better. So we check in. If they need some special counseling, we do that. I'll do that also. But so I kind of follow them, but it's safe. Mm-hmm. You're going to come off insulin. You need people paying. I need to pay attention 4 times a day. How are you doing? Mm-hmm. And what are you doing? And what's your blood sugar? So I have people take their blood sugar 4 times a day when I'm doing that. But I'm not for this. I don't really do it for that reason. And I think it's just a little tricky over the internet, and I prefer not really to have that responsibility, except if you're non-insulin dependent diabetic. There's really no risk at all.
Yeah. So, okay. So one thing I don't think I said in your intro of many things that you've accomplished is that you've also done a lot of leading research with diabetes.
Right. We found basically, again, a natural vegan way without medication to heal diabetes. Now, in 3 weeks, which is very, very short when they say it's not able to be healed, right? Impossible to heal. In 3 weeks, we heal 61%.
Wow. So how do you do that? What's the diet that they're supposed to adhere to?
It's what I call a phase 1 diet. There's no sugar in it. It's just vegetables, nuts and seeds.
Raw or cooked?
Oh, no. We don't do anything really cooked. There's a reason for that, is that the uncooked food, the raw food, live food, has a whole lot more healing energy. There's really a difference. And so, you can do vegan, but, cooked, but that's a much longer process, significantly longer. I've compared because people have done some of that.
So your results,
3 weeks, 61% healed.
So your results in 3 weeks, it was mostly a raw food, plant-based diet.
100%.
100%.
It wasn't mostly. It was 100% because
what about juicing and other?
In the 3-week program, there's 1 week of green juice.
Oh, 1 week of green juice. So 1 week of green juice, and then the rest is more.
Okay, once you've done a fast,
it
is super easy to become vegan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So about half the people in our program were meat eaters to start with. Okay, by the time we're done, everyone's a vegan. Mm-hmm. Okay, but when you fast, then you become. It's very easy to transition to vegan. So we start with the fast, and then we can kind of move into the vegan thing. Mm-hmm. It's just a very easy thing to do. In fact, I would go so far as to say that's in a way, the simplest, safest way to become vegan is to fast. Now, not everybody's going to do it that way, but if you're going to become vegan in a week, that's a really good way to do it.
It's the crash course.
Well, yeah. Well, let's say it's an elevation course.
Mm-hmm.
Who can complain if their blood sugar drops 100 points? Or in some cases, 200 points? Who's going to complain? Now, we also have people doing exercise and being very active. So for me, too, it's part of my lifestyle. So at age 78, okay, a day ago I did 1,300 push-ups, lots of different things. Because when you're doing vegan lifestyle, you don't have to get thin and weak. You can get really strong. So when I was a National Football Hall of Fame football player at Amherst College.
You did that too?
Yeah, I did do that. Amherst College, undefeated college football captain.
Were you vegan then too?
No, I didn't even know about the word vegan. Okay, remember, this is in the 60s, okay? Get it? 1961. Okay, it's a while ago. But what I'm trying to say is, at that point, I could do 70 push-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And now, 50 years later, I'm doing 1,300 push-ups.
Wow.
And that comes from this whole vegan lifestyle. That's the point I'm making. So people have a myth that if you're going to be vegan, except for some super athletes out there, you're going to get weak and feeble. That's just not the case. You also get more flexible.
Yeah.
So I can sit in full lotus when I was playing football, meat eater. I couldn't even cross my legs. So going vegan, it really helps your yoga way of being. It helps you become more flexible. It helps your endurance and really can improve your strength. Now, here's the key. And you have to understand your constitution. Some people need higher protein. Some people need lower protein. Most people eating too much protein. But the point is, you've got to get the right mix. So 30% of the population need about 35 grams of protein, and 70% need about 70 grams. Pregnant women need a little bit more than that. But the point is, that is, according to the research, the best for protection against cancer and for longevity. Okay, so that's kind of easy, but you work it out. You have to see everybody's constitution is a little different. So you see the point I'm making. So people have to understand their constitution and design their diet to their constitution. And that is where I'm used to seeing 98, 99% successful vegans because they design their diet to meet their physiological constitution. So I read a lot about that in my books, like Conscious Eating and Rainbow Green Life Food Cuisine, and all. I've written 13 books, so a lot of them have to do with spiritual nutrition. So that's the secret. Pardon?
And some bestsellers.
Yes, some Into the Nothing is really good because it combines all of the whole thing, the newest one. But the point I'm making is that it's a way of living that is much more comprehensive than just limited to a diet. And you mentioned the philosophy, it's honoring life, it's sanctifying all you do. When you're eating a vegan diet, you are sanctifying all of life.
Yeah.
I sit down to eat a meal. It's like, fine, I'm doing the prayers, but I'm not creating death. I'm sanctifying life. That's just a way. It's very powerful. You're going to say something. Go ahead.
No, it's living a life of compassion, and I think it's important. Everything that you're saying, and that people who are vegan understand to continue the word vegan over plant-based, because when you talk about your constitution as a body and your moral constitution and your physical constitution, but and this is like hence the title of the show, Laws That Matter. There's universal laws, there's universal principles. We live in this law-based universe. And, we also have a constitution that's this living, breathing document that we have, that's constantly evolving and changing, that we have to, just like you have to modify the diet for your body, you have to modify whatever, the constitution's evolving as we evolve.
And your life cycle, your timings, lots of different things. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what's super important is that the word vegan is protected as a constitutional class, like religion. It's, just like under the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, it protects race, religion, gender, marriage equality, disability. Next thing is vegan. And it is the next thing. The UK just came down with a ruling and a law saying that there's constitutional protection as if it's a religion. In the United States, there's been case law where people have been fired from jobs because they didn't want to perform certain acts because it was against their vegan beliefs. And the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission had ruled that veganism is a firmly held moral belief, much like that of religion, which means there will be constitutional protections to that word. And we must not tarnish that word with plant-based. Like, it is so important that we as vegans who want free from animal material claims, free from animal exploitation claims, cruelty-free claims, to not adopt the word plant-based as their identity.
That's helpful. I hadn't thought so deeply into it as what you're sharing.
I'm a lawyer.
What?
I'm a lawyer.
Yeah, I won't hold it against you. It's okay. My father was a lawyer, so it's okay.
But yeah, I'm a lawyer who has spent a career practice. I was a prosecutor, then I worked at a top 5 global law firm, Greenberg Traurig. Then I opened my own practice. I've done lots of litigation. Then when I found out all the deficiencies in vegan labeling law and disclosures, that's when I founded BeVeg and drafted the world's first accredited vegan standard by ISO, which means we've defined vegan internationally, it's not defined by any constitution or laws right now. So we've created a global standard that defines it. It's a technical standard and it's internationally accredited so that means like world accreditation forms recognize BeVeg as the only real reliable vegan claim. But all of our work could be undone if people start thinking, oh, it has plant-based on it, that's good enough. Because plant-based doesn't mean vegan, it doesn't mean free from animal material, it doesn't mean cruelty-free, it doesn't mean so many things. But plant-based is popular because people get scared of the word vegan because they think it means it's too strict sometimes, and strict means it's a sacrifice. And I think it's on us as vegans who are coming out with all these amazing, delicious plant-based options to be like, it's not a sacrifice. It tastes delicious. Like, look at all these options that we can eat. There's vegan meat, there's vegan cheese, there's vegan milk, there's vegan everything now. Like, we don't need to say it's not a sacrifice. It was a sacrifice according to people 30 years ago, 15 years ago, but times have changed. And I just want everybody, I feel like it's my job to help people really own the vegan word and not let it lose its legal protections that it's entitled to.
So let me tell you something that will give you a smile. So when I was in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, I spoke to vegan lawyers and, a few hundred of them. Mm-hmm. In one city.
Wow.
And so can you imagine speaking to 200 vegan lawyers in one city?
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, and they were totally into it. They totally got it. I mean, these were lawyers who were vegans.
What kind of law were they practicing?
Well, I mean, they're all different lawyers. All kinds of different law. So, but the point I'm making is even lawyers are waking up to this. I mean, 200 lawyers in one city were vegan? I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think we've seen that in the United States.
Yeah, I don't know how many lawyers are vegan in the United States.
Yeah, see, that's the point I'm making. So they loved it. They were totally into it. I was like a few-hour presentation. Mm-hmm. And I also had them meditating. But the point is, in Brazil, the lawyers are playing actually an important role in this. I mean, you're a single lawyer, but you're playing an important role. Think about a few hundred lawyers.
Yeah, that would be stuff. We need it globally. We need that.
Yes, yes, yes. Anyway, just I thought you'd be interested in that.
Yeah. No, I am. And then you said something else earlier about the athleticism. I was born vegan, born and raised, and I was a professional ballet dancer before law.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I had never broken a bone in my body. And everyone was so worried about me, as if I was going to be nutritionally deficient or break a bone or malnourished because I had a vegan diet. And I was at the top of my game, doing 8 pirouettes on point, got into New York City Ballet and American Ballet Theater, and never broke a bone in my body, went to top law school, I went to Berkeley Law. So I think all of that concern and noise that people like to put around veganism,
Right.
If you look at certain people who can be living proof as a testimony to the lifestyle, I've certainly not been compromised in any way, shape, or form physically, thank God, and mentally. I went to, took the bar, licensed to practice law in Florida, New York, DC. But, it's just so veganism really is a wonderful, positive step in the right direction that has sometimes been put into a negative penalty box unfairly.
See, I see it really different. I see veganism as necessary for the next evolutionary jump in the world.
Probably collectively.
Rudolf Steiner talked about, the messianic time, everyone will be vegan. There is some definite prophecy with some of the prophets saying, again, being vegan is going to help bring in the messianic times because consciousness will be elevated. That's a biblical. So I'm just making a point that vegan has maybe a very big role to play in the transformation of consciousness on the planet.
I believe in that.
My angle, obviously, but that's I think it's worth considering that these are statements made thousands of years ago.
Yeah. No, I believe in that too. I believe we're all connected, we're all one, and we all contribute to this collective consciousness. So the less assaults we can do on crimes and humanity and on our collective consciousness, the better our consciousness will be and the healing will begin. So we're coming close to out of time. So I want to give you time to talk about final thoughts, things you want that maybe I haven't asked that you want the world to know.
Well, just in general, I'm supporting the vegan way in multiple levels, as we've discussed. But one of the most important ways, which helps people really make that transition to vegan and vegan consciousness, are our spiritual fasting retreats. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I invite everybody to be part of that in different ways. And I also have a lot of support for veganism. I have a community called treeoflife.mn.co, and I invite people to check in because it's a vegan and spiritual support group. So we're supporting the more spiritual aspects, but it's a total lifestyle. That's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So I invite everybody to check that out. And if there's any questions, just go to drcousens.com. And then we'll direct you where you need to go, because we have lots of other programs for the mind, like the 0 Point course. There we go. And we have that meditation intensive once a month. Okay. So I invite everybody to participate in that. Just go to drcousens.com or treeoflife.mn.co. Now, the big picture is, for me, the vegan way of life helps us sanctify all of life, from our eating to everything we're doing. Because as we become more in touch with our soul, we're also more in touch with the souls of all sentient beings.
Mhm.
And so it's a way of creating sanctity in all we do. And I bless you,
Thank you.
Carissa, and
Namaste.
all the listeners that we are able to think that we are really blessing and sanctifying all of life in everything we do and in everything we eat.
Mhm.
And so I say, peace be with you. Thank you for your really good work. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. No,
And
thank you
I
for your.
learned something from what you had to say today, so it was good.
Well, I learned a lot from you as well, and it's a pleasure to meet you and speak with you. You're certainly a superstar at life. Many things I learned on the show about you that you didn't even have in your bio, like your football background. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, and it was a pleasure having your energy on the show. And keep doing the good work, and be safe in Israel and with the, everything that's going on in the world right now. So continue being the light.
Okay, and thank you. And may you be blessed and everyone be blessed, who are the listeners, that we expand the vegan consciousness throughout the world.
Yeah, amen. As Tina says, amen. Thank you, right? Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Gabriel. Now for the next portion of our show, every week on the Laws That Matter, we highlight a BeVeg certified vegan brand. And today we have Earthnut Foods and the founder, Keith. Keith, thank you so much for joining me today. You're also a lawyer convert into a business that's furthering the vegan movement and vegan message. So welcome to the show. We can't hear you. You must be muted.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I really enjoyed watching Dr. Gabriel Cousens, and I'm watching that interview. It was interesting to learn so much about what he's done.
Yeah, pretty amazing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about Earthnut Foods.
So Earthnut Foods is a vegan meat substitute, basically. I mean, is the way many people would describe it. You know, as marketing language evolves over time, I think that'll become less of a thing. For now, it's vegan burger patties, basically. They're made from legumes, peanuts, and chickpeas. They're very high in protein. So this started with the family friend of my husband came to me and wanted help producing this product that he had developed. He is a vegan, and watching the way that the product really changed his life and improved his personal health was interesting. And he wanted me to help him turn that into a business, and ultimately sold us the formula. And we've carried that forward and really built on that vision. So it's all about a really healthy product that has some excellent macro nutritional points. It's really high in protein. It has lots of really good fats, has lots of iron, and ultimately it was designed just to be a different offering. If you already eat a lot of soy-based products or black bean burgers, it's just a different tool in the toolbox, so to speak, a different option for when you don't have time to make your own vegan meal at home.
And how did you get into, how long ago did you get into this, Earthnut Foods?
We've been working on this product for a few years now, and we just started offering it for sale in the last 6 months or so. And so it's now offered in a few local grocery stores. We're working with some regional and a couple of national chains that are interested in bringing it in. And right now our sales are largely just on our website and through local grocery stores and farmers markets.
Okay. And what's your website?
Our website is earthnutfoods.com.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're actually updating the e-commerce site now. We just redid our packaging, and we got the BeVeg logo on there. We're thrilled to be BeVeg certified.
There's the logo at the bottom.
Yeah, I think that brings a lot of assistance to someone that's out shopping for a vegan product. It helps quickly identify a product that you can trust. Yeah.
And it's so important that the consumer understands that it's not just a paperwork process to identify vegan products. It have to have audits as well. You have to get into factory controls, purchasing controls, storage, segregation, separation, and dedicated equipment, separated equipment, and all sorts of things to ensure that vegan claims have the same integrity as gluten-free claims and kosher claims and all those other claims that can be free from animal material. with integrity. And the only way to do that is to have the same controls in place and the same laws in place that protect other labels to ensure that veganism is not treated as a joke, which it has been. You guys may not know, but I'm telling you, it's been a joke. Factories don't understand it. Retail chains loosely use it. And that's really where BeVeg is getting into the messaging to even, we're also talking to retail chains and trying to say, hey, look, you have on your website vegan sorting. Okay, so you want all these products to be sorted vegan. Well, what are you doing to make sure all these products are vegan? You can have plant-based sorting, but you plant-based aisles, but if you're going to have vegan aisles in stores and vegan sorting buttons on websites, that has liability. I mean, all you need is one person with an allergy when 20% of the world is allergic to lactose. You need one person with an allergy to rely on a vegan claim wrongly and then go into anaphylactic shock and die, which is kind of like Natasha's law in the UK now, because that happened with packaged food where she wrongly relied on a claim. And all you need is for that to happen one or two times, and suddenly everyone realizes that vegan needs to be taken seriously. And that's what BeVeg really gets into: the allergen controls, the traceability tests, the vulnerability assessments, and really, reality is most facilities out there are shared facilities. They're not dedicated vegan facilities. Dedicated vegan facilities are lower risk facilities, still need to have controls in place. Shared facilities are higher risk facilities that need to have serious controls in place to ensure product changeover, product runs, production runs. It's separated, and that the staff is trained to ensure that the vegan claims are protected.
Yeah. So. I think what you're doing is really great work. The vegan claim is an express warranty, just like anything else. And that's honestly, that's what's taken us so long to get this product moving as quickly as we wanted it to, because we were unable to find an outside facility, a contract packer, as it's often referred to in the food industry. We couldn't find a contract packager that we could trust to make our product. So aside from the fact that it's an express warranty, we see it as a deep moral obligation to make sure it's done right. And ultimately, the only way to get it done right was to do it ourselves. Right. So our products are made by our staff in small batches.
In a dedicated place. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But, and unfortunately, that's something that we see happening at BeVeg, where sometimes brand owners will come to us and they want the certification, and then their co-packer or their factory won't participate and allow the audit, and then we can't certify them. And then they'll go get certification from another vegan logo out there who doesn't require the factory audits, who doesn't require the factory controls, who doesn't require the factory standard operating procedures, quality management systems, HACCP plans. They don't require any of that. So in essence, it's like rent-a-stamp, because there's no way to enforce the vegan claim if you can't have access to factory management procedures and protocols. The reality is there's always going to be room for product recalls. There's always going to be product recalls on the market, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing everything in our power to prevent those recalls and to protect veganism. Right. As a label. And the statistics show that 80% of those that are buying vegan claims are not vegan at all. They're consumers who are leaning towards the plant-based diet, who want transparency. They don't want to be lied to. And consumer protection laws are drafted to protect the consumer to make informed purchasing decisions. So it doesn't have to be a vegan animal lover. It could be an allergen, sufferer. It could be a kosher follower that wants free from animal residue products because they're following a kosher diet. There's so many reasons that vegan as a word needs to be mainstream and protected. So I'm glad that Earthnut Foods went along with the vegan certification with BeVeg. We're the most reliable, and I truly believe in what we're doing. And, I'm glad that you guys saw that as well. So
yeah, we definitely appreciate what you're doing. The dilution of the word vegan can really hurt all of us. We need to know that we can trust that label when it's used.
Yeah, it's not even the dilution. The vegan claims are tarnished because so many products say vegan and have a vegan label next to it, and then on the same packaging say may contain milk, dairy, eggs. How can the consumer make an informed decision if it says may contain dairy and then vegan? Or here's another example. there's a vegan ice cream that someone wrote into us this week. There's a vegan ice cream that has the heart logo vegan on it. And then next to it, it has the OU kosher D for dairy. They were like, how can it have the OU kosher D for dairy and also have vegan? And the reason is because the heart logo vegan certification certifies products. They don't certify factories. So the heart logo cannot certify that that product is truly vegan because the factory is a shared factory. It's a dairy facility. So the only way to ever truly certify it as vegan, I don't even know why they really would certify the product as vegan. And if the consumer understand that you can't certify a product as vegan when with those may contain tarnished claims, which are now mainstream to allow, it's confusing the consumer. I mean, they don't go in. There's no factory control, so they have to allow the may contains or the kosher dairy symbol because the truth is it's the same equipment, it's the same factory, and it might have dairy in it. It's not like that with BeVeg. BeVeg would go into the factory. BeVeg would ensure separate equipment. BeVeg would ensure cleaning mechanisms are in place. BeVeg would ensure separation, segregation, training procedures. Global food safety auditors do the audits, and we make sure that there will be a product out of that shared facility that's free from animal material. That's why we're different.
Well, we appreciate what you do. So thanks for having us.
And I want the consumers and everyone out there who's vegan to understand the difference. It's so important because in the end, the consumer drives the demand.
Right.
Yeah. So any final thoughts, any final words, Earthnut, regarding Earthnut Foods, burgers?
Yeah, just as this business segment really grows, I'm excited to see more and more people adopting a vegan lifestyle and moving forward with these proteins. These are really healthy options, and I'm hopeful that more and more people will understand that it can be a positive thing for their health, for the earth, for their consciousness, for everything. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Keith, and congratulations on your product launch. I hope to see you in retail chains soon.
Yeah,
you'll have to keep us posted. And let's see here for everyone else. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Laws That Matter. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place, every Wednesday, noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific.